Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how to convert repeating decimal numbers to a fractional value. Now first we'll talk about what repeating decimal numbers are, and we will see that there are different cases of repeating decimals. Like we can have one digit repeating interminably, we can have a pair of digits repeating interminably, or we can have even more than a pair which keeps repeating. All right. We'll start, however, with an example where one digit repeats. And I've picked this value here, 0.8 bar. Now this bar over the 8 tells us that this is a repeating decimal. That means the digit 8 after the decimal keeps repeating interminably. So 0.8 bar can be written as in different ways. We can write it as 0.88 bar, or we can write it as 0.888 bar, or it can even be written as 0.88888 bar. They all mean the same thing. All these numbers refer back to 0.8 bar. All right. Now, when we want to convert a repeating decimal to a fraction, the goal is to shed the decimal part of the number. All right, because we call that a fraction, will end up having a numerator and a denominator, and the numerator and the denominator should be integer values. All right, there should not be any decimal part in the numerator or in the denominator. So the first step here is to write this, all right, write this 0.8 bar in an equation form, and I'm going to use the variable n. So I'm going to write this in equation form as n equals 0.8 bar. All right, so that's step 1. Now in step 2, because there's only one digit repeating here, I'm going to multiply this entire equation, n equals 0.8 bar, by 10. All right, so in the next step, I'm going to multiply by 10 this entire equation, which is n equals 0.8 bar. And when I do that, I end up getting 10n, right? 10n equals, now, just one thing when multiplying repeating decimal by 10, we will end up getting 8.8 bar. All right. Now you may ask that why 8.8 bar and not 8.0? Because when we multiply 0.8 by 10, we end up getting 8.0. However, it's a little bit different when multiplying repeating decimal numbers, because think about it, 0.8 bar is the same as 0.88 bar, correct? When we multiply 0.88 bar by 10, we will end up getting 8.8 bar. All right, so it is different when you multiply a repeating number by 10 versus when you are multiplying a non-repeating number by 10. All right, so we end up getting 10n equals 8.8 bar. And then what we do is in the next step, all right, in step 3, we will write that n equals 0.8 bar, the initial equation, under 10n minus 8.8 bar. So I'm going to do that, n equals 0.8 bar, and I'm going to subtract the two equations. And when I do that, I have 10n minus n is 9n. And on the other side, on the right-hand side, I end up getting 8.0. So here at this point, we have gotten rid of the decimal part, which was our goal. All right. So now we have 9n equals 8.0. We solve for n by dividing both sides by 9, and we will end up with n equals 8/9. And that is the final answer. All right. So at this point, we have completed the process, and we have converted the repeating decimal value to a fractional counterpart. All right. Now we'll work on a second example, which is to convert 1.36 bar to a fraction. Now this particular example is a little bit different from what we worked before, where we had only one digit repeating after the decimal point. The 8 kept repeating after the decimal point. Here we have a pair of digits repeating after the decimal point interminably. All right. So broadly, the process is going to be same except at one point, as you will see. All right, but the first step was to write this value in equation form. So I'm going to write it as n equals 1.36 bar. All right, so that was the first step. Now, in the second step, we have to multiply this equation. Remember previously when we were working with one digit repeating, we had multiplied by 10, correct? This time, because we have two digits repeating after the decimal point, we have to multiply by 100. All right, so let's do that. I'm going to write this as 100, and the entire equation has to be multiplied by 100. So it's n equals 1.36 bar. In the next step, when I complete the multiplication, I'm going to end up with 100n equals. Now, when you multiply 1.36 bar by 100, you should end up with 136.36 bar. Again, I'm going to show you, just like I did over here, how 0.88 bar ended up with 8.8 bar when multiplied by 10. It's going to be the same process. 1.36 bar can be rewritten as 1.3636 bar, correct? When I multiply that by 100, I should get, the decimal is going to shift 2 places to the right. I'll end up with 136.36 bar, and that's exactly what I have down here. All right, so now that we completed the multiplication, the next step is to write the initial equation under the the multiplied equations, which is n equals 1.36 bar, and perform a subtraction. We subtract the two equations. So 100n minus n is 99n. And then 136.36 bar minus 1.36 bar should give us a value of 135.00, right? So at this point, we have gotten rid of the decimal part, which was our goal, all right? So we shed the decimal part of the number, and now we just solve for n here by dividing both sides by 99, and we will have n equals 135 divided by 99. Now 135 divided by 99 has a common factor of 9, has a greatest common factor of 9. So if you divide 135 by 9 and 99 by 9, all right, you should end up with, we can reduce it to its lowest terms. You will end up with 15 over 11, and that is the fractional form of 1.36 bar. All right. Now we'll work on example 3, which is a case when repeating digit or digits do not start immediately after the decimal point. So in this value here, in this example 2.49, we see the bar just over the 9 and not above the 4, which means that 4 does not repeat. It's only the digit 9 that keeps repeating interminably. So we can write 2.49 with the bar just over the 9 as 2.4. 4 is written just once after the decimal point, and it's the 9 that keeps repeating interminably. All right, so we can write it as 2.499999 and then put the bar at the end, which tells us that 9 keeps repeating interminably. All right, so to convert these kind of values to fraction, we follow the same process, but there's an extra step that we need to perform. All right. So we start by initially putting this or setting this up in equation form. So let's do that. I'm going to write it as n equals and then 2.49 with the bar just over the 9. And then in the next step, I'm going to get this 4, which is the non-repeating part, to the left of the decimal. All right, so the 4 will come to the left of the decimal and we will just have the repeating part, that 9 bar, to the right of the decimal. All right, in order to do so, that means in order to shift the decimal point one place to the right, we have to multiply this entire equation by 10, correct? The decimal needs to be shifted only one place to the right. So I'm going to multiply this entire equation by 10 and we will get a value 10n equals 24.9 with a bar above the 9. All right. So this is going to be the equation that we will work with. All right, from here on. So now that we have the repeating part right after immediately after the decimal point, all right, what we are going to do is we're going to follow the same process. We are going to get rid of the decimal. All right, we are going to shed the decimal part of this value. In order to do that, we are going to multiply this entire equation again by a 10. All right, because there's only one digit repeating, correct? Remember that when there's only one digit repeating, then we multiply it by 10. So let's do that. 10 times 10n is going to be 100n. All right, 100n equals, and 24.9 bar, all right, times 10 is going to be 249.9 bar. All right, recall that 24.9 bar is the same as writing 24.99 bar. When we multiply that by 10, we will end up with 249.9 bar. All right, this is just the way we had worked it previously. All right, in these previous examples. So let's write 249.9 bar, 249.9 bar. And now below this equation, I'm going to write this second step, this one. All right, this equation, not the initial equation, but the one that we have after we initially multiplied by 10. So it's going to be 10n. So let's write that. It's going to be 10n equals 24.9 bar. All right, 24.9 bar. Now we go and subtract. So 100n minus 10n is 90n, and 249.9 bar minus 24.9 bar is going to be 0, and then 9 minus 4 is a 5. 4 minus 2 is a 2, so 225, correct? And now we will just solve for n, divide both sides by a 90, and we will have n equals 225 divided by 90. We need to reduce this to its lowest terms, and both 225 and 90 are divisible by 45. The greatest common factor of both these, both the numerator and the denominator, is 45. And when we do the division, when we reduce it to its lowest terms, we will get a value which is 5 over 2. And that is the fractional equivalent of 2.49 bar. All right.